What is up, basketball fans? I am Jason Burgos for Sportsnaut.com, and I have the pleasure of being joined by a very talented veteran NBA reporter who has worked for the LA Times, USA Today, currently has Sportsnaut as a site he covers the league for. He's here to talk the West Coast squads ahead of the NBA trade deadline, and that is the one and only Mark Medina. Senor Medina, thank you so much for the time today.
Hey, Jason, always a blast talking NBA with you.
So first, I of course wanted to talk about the Lakers since you cover them very closely all the time. I want to go. I won't go as far as calling this season a disaster, but if things continue this way towards the end, it's going to probably be that. In the summer, they seemingly made the right moves to keep the talent that helped them get them to the Western Conference Finals. Why is this group not playing like they did to end the year? Is it all on head coach Darvin Ham? Did they kind of maybe get fooled a little bit by how well Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura played? Or, like, as Rick Bucher recently told me, maybe it's relying on a guy like LeBron James who, while still good, isn't the guy he used to be that should be relied on to that level.
Yeah, it's confounding because this is mostly the key group that got to the Western Conference Finals last season. I think when the Lakers decided, you know what, we're going to go the continuity route, I think it was really through a pragmatic lens that they had the lessons of the Russell Westbrook trade, not only of having a third star that potentially couldn't be a good fit, but you're stripping away, roster depth. And so I think that the Lakers, they knew the ups and downs that players like D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura have. But one, they're all able to retain those players on cap-friendly deals. But number two, and more importantly, there was optimism that out of this whole group, a third star wouldn't emerge. They're role players for a reason, but there'd always be a composite character, star number three, out of any of that group. And as much as we'd like to say, yeah, injuries are a factor, Darvin Ham could do a better job with rotations, especially with Jared Vanderbilt, with both of those things, they should be much better than what they are. And, I think that with them wanting to have the continuity route, in a way, it was a pivot from trying to rely too much on LeBron James because they saw the early lessons, obviously, as I mentioned before, with getting Russell Westbrook, them missing the playoffs, that would put more of an undue burden on him at 39 years old in his 21st season. So even when you weigh everything with X's and O's, mismanagement, or injuries, the Lakers should be much better than a barely above or below 500 team. They should be one of those teams that's, in the middle of the West and, could be a sneaky good team against the other top contenders and not a team that is just fighting for their lives to stay in the play-in mix.
We've done a lot of reporting on Sportsnaut about possible rumors or possible Lakers trades. You did a column recently about maybe standing pat. It might be really the best route for them to go. But they've been linked to Zach LaVine, to DeJounte Murray. A recent rumor was talking about 3 players from the Nets might be targets for them. At this point, what does your gut, as someone that covers them so much, tell you happens before the trade line? Because it feels like if they don't do anything, the head coach, the GM's job is very much on the line if they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a few things. I think the Lakers, they'll try to make moves because they're not satisfied with the roster. But if they do make moves, I don't think it's going to be anything extraordinary because I think that they've determined that if they strip away a lot of their depth, they're going to be an even worse basketball team. And I think they're also aware that they don't have a lot of assets to offer. They only have 1 first-round pick. They could have more draft picks in the summer. To the point that Darvin Ham's job is on the line. It's premature. I mean, management has been strongly in his favor. In professional sports, it's always fluid, but I would suspect that he at least coaches through the rest of the season. And same thing with Rob Pelinka. I mean, he just signed an extension last summer or at the beginning of last season. Jeannie Buss has been nothing but very supportive toward him. So I think with this, it's not about making moves to protect jobs. It's about making moves to maximize LeBron James' championship window, ensure that he wants to retire as a Laker, and 3, and most importantly, try to win a championship because, they're in that arms race with the Boston Celtics where they're tied with them and they always have wanted to be the superior team. And right now, the Celtics are obviously in the driver's seat as one of the top contenders in the East.
There's always been these rumblings about, oh, if the Lakers don't, contend and they're in a race for a championship, maybe LeBron could leave and stuff like that. If they somehow miss the playoffs, which would be the third time since he's been in Los Angeles, would that be enough to, like, he goes, you know what, I have this $51 million player option, but I want to get one more title. I can go somewhere else. I have $1 billion. I'm worth $1 billion. I can deal with it. Or no matter what, do you feel, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit too, no matter what happens, LeBron is just kind of too embedded in Lakers culture now within the organization that even Bronny, coming and not being drafted by them, he's probably most likely just going to finish his career as a Laker.
I think it's all fluid. I think that the options cut both ways, and technically it's within LeBron James's control because he has a player option. But I think the circumstances are really going to determine what LeBron James's future is. And, if he's a player that's still playing at a high level like he is now, and he has a chance to win a championship, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's prioritizing. But at 39 years old, 21st season, at some point, Father Time wins. So far it hasn't, significantly, but there is also a pathway that, the best route might just be do the farewell tour, enjoy your time, enjoy everything being in Los Angeles and the Lakers and being close to home. So I don't think that just with how the Lakers play is going to determine that. I think it's also how LeBron James's play holds up that will determine what's his best lane for prioritizing things. If he's playing at a high level, wouldn't be surprised it's about trying to squeeze one last title run. If his body's getting the best of him and he would just be spinning his wheels regardless, the not only the monetary play but the pragmatic play as far as his best circumstance, it could just be, this is my last season with the Lakers, and even if we're not contending for championships, you can get the farewell treatment similar to what Kobe Bryant experienced in the 15-16 season.
True. Because the Lakers take up so much of the air in the LA basketball scene, a fabulous season for the Clippers is kind of maybe in some ways gone under the radar, especially probably nationally and stuff like that. Honestly, and I'm kind of shocked because I did not think this many established stars with their unique personalities, the resumes would work out. How the heck has Ty Lue been able to make this not only work, but they're like a game or two out of being the number one seed in the West? How has he done it?
Well, the top thing is something that hasn't benefited the Clippers in past seasons, ever since the Kawhi, Leonard, Paul George era. They're actually healthy.
Yeah.
Their star players are playing games. That doesn't just extend to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. It also extends to James Harden. He's had injury issues in past seasons. But I think the other thing is that everyone's bought in. When they got James Harden, I certainly had my own questions on how they're going to make this work, even if there were intentions of wanting to make this work, especially because James Harden's trying to improve his reputation, get his first championship ring. Same thing with Russell Westbrook. And also same thing with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, of not even winning a title yet with the Clippers since joining them, that I thought that there would be too many X's and O's to figure out. But to Ty Lue's credit, he's a master managing personalities, master making adjustments, and all these four players have bought into sacrifice. And what does sacrifice look like? Paul George and Kawhi Leonard aren't handling the ball as much. They're moving more off the ball, but they're getting more efficient looks. James Harden, Ty Lue eventually anointed him as the primary playmaker, but he's looking more to pass first than just to look for his shot. He is looking for his shot, but it's within the confines of the offense. And then Russell Westbrook, he's embracing the bench role. It was actually his idea to come off the bench to try to help the common good. And so, they are the real deal now. Every Clipper fan obviously should always be knocking on wood because you just never know with injuries.
Yeah.
But there is a pathway that this can sustain from a health perspective because Kawhi Leonard's further removed from his ACL injury in the 2021 playoffs. The Clippers have said that his meniscus tear from last season's postseason run has been fully healed with an off-season procedure. Paul George fully healthy, so you never rule any of that out. But I have some relative optimism that they can be mostly healthy throughout this season and the playoffs.
I've had my doubts about Ty Lue. I've always felt like maybe he's a guy that kind of just ends up in the right positions at the right times. But I mean, the way what he's done with the team this year, with the points you mentioned, it's completely shut me up. Is there a case to be made that he's maybe the most underrated coach in the league, kind of taking the spot from Eric Spoelstra, right? But now everybody, knows Eric Spoelstra is great. Maybe he's kind of usurped that role as the most underrated. And if the Clippers get this number 1 seed, is he coach of the year for this season?
He could be coach of the year, but I don't think he's underrated. He's been getting credit as a great head coach for a while. And when we look at when Kawhi Leonard was out in the entire 21-22 season, he was getting so much praise for how he was making adjustments, dealing with so many different starting lineups, dealing with so many injuries. So this doesn't surprise me at all. Ty Lue has cemented himself for a while now that he's a really good head coach. He's not right place, right time, or LeBron James's friend, and nothing else. He knows how to manage personalities. He's obsessed with coaching. And, all these coaches are obviously obsessed with their craft and they watch footage. But Ty Lue has had a pretty strong reputation for a while now that he is very good at figuring out how to make adjustments, especially in the playoffs. I think, what's different is his guys are fully healthy now. So how we're judging success in past seasons was how much did he mirror MacGyver of given an eraser, given a pencil and a paper clip, and making a weapon out of it. Okay. And now he's actually had more material to work with here. But yeah, he's cemented himself for a while ever since winning that NBA title in 2016, as well as how he's managed everything with the Clippers through the ups and downs of their tenure.
You've covered the Warriors a lot as well, and if this is this officially kind of the end of the dynasty? Have they put themselves in a financial situation where it's going to be hard to kind of pivot and reimagine the team and still stay a contender? Or because Steph is still so good even now, they can maybe with this new front office elected, maybe they can be creative and quickly rebuild around him, and we shouldn't underestimate them, even considering how things are going this year and the first half last year.
Yeah, I think as long as Steph Curry's on the team and he's healthy, the championship window will never close. But the Warriors, they haven't been that predominant dynasty ever since Kevin Durant left. Now, they obviously won a championship in 2022 to show that they still have championships in them. But I would be surprised if they're able to win another title with these same players. And that's not to say that the Warriors are going to make any tough decisions with breaking up, the core with Steph and Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. There could be a pathway where Klay comes back on a relative discount. Draymond Green's still under contract, but they might just determine that for everything good and bad with Draymond, they're just better off keeping everything there. But I would be surprised that they win another title with this core and with Steph Curry for that matter. But that's not to say that the window's shut and they can't still be a contending team. But they could be at a crossroads of having to make some tough decisions in the offseason. I don't think that even though they have a lot of needs, similar to like the Lakers, I don't think that they're going to do anything dramatic during the before the trade deadline, because Chris Paul and Gary Payton II have injuries. Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, wouldn't consider them untouchable, but their market isn't as robust as it could be. And so I think, like the Lakers, the Warriors might go down the pragmatic route that even though it doesn't solve any of their problems, it at least doesn't create new ones. And, any of these roster shakeups can then be put on hold until next summer. So we'll wait and see.
Steve Kerr is in the final year of his contract. If he does walk away, take a break from the sport for a bit, based on your knowledge of the league, who do you think could possibly be a replacement for him in terms of maybe assistants already on the staff, assistants around the league, veteran coaches out there? Like who do you think would take on such a tough role of trying to replace Steve Kerr?
It's really tough for me to think that way, and part of it is because I would be surprised if Steve Kerr's not back. I mean, they haven't agreed to an extension, but haven't gotten any indications that either side's feeling, this is the end of it. Now, obviously professional sports, things can always change. We're mentioning about the Warriors' struggles. Obviously, we know that Bob Myers, left his front office position last summer, but there was more of a buildup with Bob not coming back as opposed to Steve, where, technically the similarities are, Bob Myers wasn't able to reach an extension, before the end of last season. Steve Kerr's on the final year here, but the circumstances seem a lot different that I haven't gotten any indication that Steve won't be back and they won't be able to agree to a deal.
Then if it's most likely, then why hasn't, do you feel, from what you've heard or just your own opinions, like, why haven't they agreed to a contract? Like, this is the greatest coach by far in team history, one of the best coaches of the last 20, 30 years in the sport. Is it not odd to have re-upped him yet, or is this just such a unique situation? Like, the contracts and long-term deals aren't a big deal, and then when it comes, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's a fair question because, a lot of times in normal circumstances, coaches don't want to have lame duck status.
Yep.
I think in fairness, coaches' contracts don't count against the cap as far as how they manage the roster, but I think that the team, they're trying to manage what they have this season and figure out potentially tough decisions there before proceeding with everything else. But again, while everything in the NBA can always be fluid, in fairness, I just never got any indication that Steve won't be back.
The last question I have is on the Kings. They are having another strong season, but there's a new standard now. Being a surprise team, that was cool last season, but now they need to be more than that. They are definitely like a piece away from being a title contender. They're a very good team, but if they want to compete in the West, win a title, they need someone else. Do they finally make a big deal before the deadline? Not something they often do. And who should they target if they do? Is it Kyle Kuzma, like has been rumored for a bit the last few weeks, or do you think they should go in a different direction?
Yeah, I think that you're sensing a theme here where I'm saying I don't think the Kings are going to make dramatic moves either. We're so used to the trade deadline there being a lot of frenetic activity, but in fairness, in this year, a lot of the trades have already happened that were major before the season even started. And there's been a few trades like the Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby trades in separate deals from Toronto. My sense with the Kings, they'll certainly look into things, but I think that they've decided that they're better off emulating what the Denver Nuggets did with, it's a different core roster, but doing the continuity route, build from within, realize they're a small market, and go from there. That's certainly not to say that they're a finished product, but I think, again, through the realistic, pragmatic lens, the Kings feel like they're just getting started because their core is still young and in their prime. But internally, now it's about, can they become an elite defensive team? And Mike Brown has, stressed time and time again that the team needs to increase its physicality, know how to defend without fouling, and play at a much more disciplined pace offensively. Even though they're a really good offensive team, it's in his mind that they need to also know how to execute well in the half court so that when the playoffs come and the game slows down, they're much more equipped to deal with that than they were in that 7-game playoff series against Golden State.